We are back with another edition of the Ad Podcast. You're getting a 2-for-1 today, and also a studio guest. So, Mark Elmore, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Mark Elmore is the CEO of Maui Snorkeling. We didn't have the opportunity to meet at the Arrival show a couple of weeks back here in beautiful San Diego, but we connected over email, and he was nice enough to come on the show. And Mark happens to live here in sunny San Diego, even though he runs this tour operator out of Maui. But Mark, thanks again for coming on, bud.
Thank you.
So, Mark, I want to start with your origin story. And what was pretty interesting about Arrival is that I don't think I met a single operator that maybe initially set out to become an operator of a tour. I met such a host of interesting people, probably the most interesting backgrounds of anybody I've ever met at a conference. And I've been going to them for 13 years. Met guys that were AI coders, met guys that had run successful SaaS businesses and then sold them. And then now I'm meeting you, who from my research, I believe you're in the financial services industry originally.
Yes, I was a bond trader.
Got it. Okay. And you kind of fell into running a snorkel adventure operation out of Maui, kind of, as the my understanding is through collateral for a loan that you put out. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, okay. I certainly wasn't trying to find tour operators out of Maui.
Nice.
I always loved Maui, but I'd been there only a few times and certainly didn't think of any kind of business opportunity there. But there's a developer that was from the island, and he was doing a house in La Jolla. So I took a second position on the house, but in order to do it, I said, you need to put up a little bit more collateral, and it was way more collateral than the loan that I gave. So when it started to, pass some timelines, that it was kind of starting to look like, okay, this is probably going to be either we can go through the courts or we can talk about, he was a very nice guy.
Yeah. He's got a little over his skis.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, I think I never foreclosed or anything like that. But, there are various timing issues as far as county approvals and things like that just happen. And I used it. I ended up buying the business. So I didn't foreclose. I bought it and used the money that he owed me as a credit. So visited the island a couple of times with him to introduce me, and he was, he was a wonderful host and good person to do business with. But shortly after, or when I saw the vessel itself, I realized, okay, we're going to have to get a new one, because the value was really in the permit, and it was an older boat. Okay. So it was starting to get, the problems that happen with 30-ish year old boats.
Sure.
And you can either completely do everything, or you can sell it and buy a new boat. So I ended up building one in Louisiana and shipping it, taking it apart, shipping it across the country, putting it on a boat. And then we got to Oahu, reassembling it. And
so you can't just drive it from Louisiana to the Hawaiian Islands?
I would recommend it. Yeah. So if you can find a vessel close to where you would like to do business with it, definitely that's the better way to go.
Sure.
But it was also, I bought it shortly before COVID. So not only did our business go away, I was paying progress payments, wiring them money every couple weeks as they built the boat. So it was stressful. But we did end up doing fine. The business, as most people know, snapped back the other way.
Right.
And it went really haywire on 2000 up to 2022. And, anybody who ran a business there did well just because of there's so much demand.
Just from what they call revenge travel. Right?
So I was bailed out for sure from my issues by just having tons of demand.
Yeah. Well, but that must have been very scary for you, right? So you essentially inherit a business that you didn't intend to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you show up on site and you see that it needs a lot more work than you initially expected, which literally requires a brand new vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So you enter into that arrangement, and then COVID hits and literally wipes out travel internationally. But Hawaii was particularly affected with vaccine rules and closures on the island, and just really, I felt, at least as a traveler, that, Hawaii didn't really want travelers at the beginning. It was like pretty locked down. As time went on, I think you started to see, okay, well, we want travelers, but we want the right travelers. We want the travelers that are being safe. We want the travelers that are going to come and be respectful of the island, et cetera. So then you kind of have this snapback moment to some degree. And so you had a lot of things, a lot of headwinds going against you, and you made it out on the other side. What was your mindset like, getting that kind of triple trifecta of kind of bad news, as you're going into this new business?
I mean, I think I'm built to take things in stride. And there was never a point where, I was going to jump off a building or anything like that. And I had other business interests that, I owned a bond trading firm at the same time. And that was going even worse for a short period of time, it was tough. COVID was, nobody had that in their models. And it was truly, it's an overused term, but it's a black swan that, who, when they did their pro formas, said, okay, what if business goes to zero and then scales up? We did go to 50% for a while, people wearing masks and social distancing on the boat. So, that was at least getting us back to near break even.
So basically, if you can fill half the boat, you're at least at break even.
Yeah, we're, it was somewhere around there. We probably were still losing a little bit, but it was definitely a big reversal from where we were with the zero. And we had a few wins. We had the first White Lotus, if you're familiar with the show. It was a big HBO.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So our boat was on there for approximately 3 seconds.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And then we had we've had some famous people on the boat, and that's been fun, for sure. But that in particular was good because that was at a time where nobody could run public tours, but we had them, and they filmed for a few days with us at the private tour rate. So it was really a great save.
Yeah, I can imagine. So private chartering, how much of your business were you able to make up during the time where you couldn't take out public customers?
That was, there wasn't much private chartering because people couldn't get to Maui. So even that, there just wasn't
enough demand to really, keep things.
And there's at a point, if you we have 67 for typical capacity in the summer when we're really booming, and we'll fill that up a couple times a day.
Wow.
But if we have 3 people booked like back then, even if it just does, it costs much more to go out than it does to leave it sitting. But, we tried to help keep the employees on. We did the PPE or the loan.
I remember.
To just keep the employees employed, but they're not getting the tips. They're not getting, so it was a struggle for them.
That's probably a great portion of what they make is on the tip side.
It's a pretty, it's
significant.
It is significant.
Got it.
And they, that kind of went to zero for them. So it, but scaled back up and then had the boom, which kind of went on haywire and over, got into the over tourism area.
So what do you do in a recovery like that? Call it a tourism recovery or revenge travel. Then you're just booked at capacity 24/7. You can't then do you try and think about how do you expand the business? How do you capture that demand? Or you're just kind of happy that you're at full capacity?
Yeah, you don't want to model that as being a realistic scenario for any time. So
smart.
By the time
like all the retailers did with their holiday orders that year.
Exactly. So you don't want to go out and build a new boat that's due in a year and a half and think that the market's going to be the same. It's totally different. And it turned out it was totally different for other reasons, but it is hard to capitalize on the capacity because it just takes too long to do a deal. So you can't turn to your neighbor and say, hey, you want to sell me your boat?
Because they're doing well too.
Yeah, they're doing well too. The price is commensurate to how business is. So, bad times, the prices drop. The good times, everybody extrapolates that and says, I want 10 times last year's earnings when they want to sell. me probably included.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely, it's a boom bust industry, and it's especially been so with, the past 4 years we've had since COVID.
Well, let's, I want to talk about marketing in a normal market at some point, but, since you did mention the last 4 years, not just the COVID era, I guess we can hop into, an additional pain point that you guys felt not much far after the COVID bounce back. We're talking about the Lahaina fires. So Lahaina gets hit. We have this terrible humanitarian crisis on Maui. Pretty quickly, the message is kind of put out to American tourists. And, we talked a little bit before we started rolling. We kind of heard mixed messaging as travelers. Hawaii is one of my favorite destinations. I've been over 15 times. I've gone for my honeymoon. I went for my brother's wedding. I went for my college graduation with my sister, who was on her high school graduation. So many of the main inflection points of my life. Taken clients there to different islands. I've been to every island except the really, small ones like Lanai and some of the ones that, are harder to get to unless you really know what you're doing. But all the major islands I've been to. But the kind of messaging that I felt as a consumer was, hey, Maui doesn't really want you here. It's not sensitive to travel here as a tourist. The governor was kind of somewhere in the middle, like maybe don't come to the west side, but come to other places. Then you'd hear from famous people like Jason Momoa, don't come at all. But then you're seeing social media videos that are saying, hey, this is what we all do for a living. Like we all are employed and, do what you can to pitch in, but, don't abandon us because, this is how we all make our money and we all work at different parts of the island and there's an economy other than just the west side and Lahaina. So, what was your experience like with this, this additional horrible tragedy to kind of keep the lights on, and how were you guys affected as operators?
Well, we had we talked a little bit about this. We had just to focus on my specific thing. I don't want to at all minimize the pain that people in Lahaina had. But in regards to Lahaina, we have what's called a dive boat, which is V-shaped. So we can't go onto the beach like a catamaran would. So to go into Lahaina, we were kept out by the Coast Guard, 1 mile radius. So we were offering, but we could not help. Unfortunately, we made the decision to, hey, let's go out, and everybody's already paid. We have a boat full of people. Some might cancel, but let's take as many as we can out, and we'll keep them off the island. They won't be in the way of the people fighting the fire and everything. They can't fly out. There's the airport was stuffed with people, and we said, okay, let's have a charity. We'll give all the money to charity.
Yeah,
and we announced that
ahead of time.
But we were had the tour kind of, I don't know if, you would have to be kind of familiar with that side of Maui.
When I saw the video today, I knew exactly where you guys are, because I see you guys down there. It's right on the right-hand side as you turn down into the harbor, right? Like as it's pretty far. And it's like when you start to go up the way to head to the west side.
Yep, correct. Head to Lahaina.
Yeah.
So there was a backup of traffic, and a local saw that and felt that we weren't we were doing the right thing with regards to the fact that they could see us, and it was disrespectful. She was right.
Sure.
It's not something that I ever really fought back on that regard, but she didn't have the full story. That, I was doing this. I was, taking calls, talking about like how we can help. This was the way I decided, and the captain, and we decided, okay, let's take people out. And she put that video up and kind of lit us up. So it goes viral, and I'm a 56-year-old guy, so going viral to me is, I know what it is. But I've never been in the middle of it.
Yeah, anything above the norm, and when it's bad, when it's for reasons that aren't necessarily helping you, that's kind of an interesting situation to be in.
And the story, it kind of morphs. So she indicated or made her followers feel that we were in Lahaina doing this. We were 11, 12 miles away.
Yep.
We were in blue waters. You can't even see smoke in the horizon.
No.
And as people were blowing us up and going to our website and attacking it, and going to every review site and saying, these guys are the worst capitalists in the world, and they're terrible people, and as that was happening, you can't. I tried to explain. I didn't try to fight back, but I tried to explain myself. I got on Instagram and I was like, I'm sorry, but you don't understand. I'm the owner. I take full responsibility, but this is a charity trip that you're attacking.
Yeah, right.
And but the time frame is, they don't believe me because they're
nobody's
mad.
People who see the first video never see the second.
They don't see it, and then the Daily Express out of the UK picks it up, and they post it. And they're just looking for stories, so they find out about a controversy, they post it.
Yeah. Then
Drudge Report connects it. They're the biggest news aggregator in the world.
Yeah, the one that I saw was WAPO.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But WAPO actually did the work.
Oh, okay.
And they checked the receipt. Like I said, I'll talk about it in a minute. But nice. So on Drudge in the top left corner, where everybody looks, for a day and a half straight, they had in capital letters, shock, snorkelers swimming among dead bodies.
Oh my gosh, Drudge.
It was just such an egregious lie.
Yeah.
And I've always conducted myself, I'm not perfect, but I've always conducted myself to where, in finance, I had no black marks for, almost 30 years. The whole time I was doing that, I just see myself as a fundamentally good person.
Of course.
And you're looking at the internet, and I would refresh my email, and it would say, Inside Edition wants to talk to you, Washington Post, New York Times, and all this stuff. And so what I did is I thought, I can't fight this. I can't reasonably expect to get in front of these people. So I hired a PR firm.
Got it. Yeah.
So it was a recommendation through my lawyer. Shout out to Dave Oates, Oates, out of San Diego. And he just said, Mark, you need, I remember specifically on the phone with him and saying, well, you don't understand, Dave, but this happened. He would say, Mark, stop it. Just, I'm going to ask you a question. Don't try to run in circles. And eventually, he calmed me down.
Yeah.
And, after, a day or two, I took a step back and realized, I have the truth. I know we have on our ticketing system, it shows the timestamped email that went out to all the customers. So I have that proof. It's just getting it to, I feel I have to prove to the world.
Well, to some degree, you do have to go on the offense, right? Or the narrative just steamrolls you and takes over. And at the end of the day, you're, you either are a victim or you kind of have to get out there and participate, right? I think you were proactive. You sought good counsel. You hired a PR firm, which is great. My first job out of school, I worked for Howard Bragman, who was a crisis PR guy. So
I'm familiar with them, but I quickly became, and I acknowledge that it's a great service, because I don't think many people are, see something like that coming, and it's very hard to deal with. But so finally, then we've figured out how we can help, and the way to help is to take a boat like ours, loaded in Maui Harbor with water and just everything. And I just gave the guys the card and just say, buy everything you can stuff the boat with. And the New York Times rode with us and wrote a really nice story. I think they might have mentioned the controversy, but that wasn't the focus anymore.
That's great. You were able to change the narrative and get out there in front of it and be part of the solution.
Correct. And then Washington Post, when they called, they said, I'd like to interview you. And I was nervous because I'm not used to this stuff. And but it went really well. And we sent them all the time-stamped receipts, and they had a full interview with me. It was cut quite a bit shorter, but I just had 2 or 3 things that they had me say, but it was 5 days later. So none of I never got the, I told you I'm not an idiot, kind of thing, which, I was still a little bit fighting in my head, these anonymous people that are telling me I'm a terrible guy. But anyway, the pain from that pales in comparison again to what everybody else went through. But it is, as a business owner, I realize that there are risks that you don't see coming. And they can smack you in the head, like COVID, like this. And even if we hadn't gone viral, Lahaina made our business go to zero again for a while.
Wow.
And it's definitely a learning curve to try to, and the next thing will be something completely different.
Of course. Well, you guys have had some black swans, so I'm hoping for smooth sailing, no pun intended, for a little while for you guys. So, all right. Well, one thing I noticed was the WAPO story, like you said, was pretty even keeled. And the other component of it is it's the number 2 ranking in Google for your search criteria. So good to have that. Sure. There was a Bloomberg thing that was like behind a paywall. There was a New Zealand publication. So page 1 of Google is cleaned up, from my opinion. So congratulations to that.
And all of our, they attack your review sites.
Oh yeah. That's what I wanted to ask you. So from a reputation management perspective, you talked about the PR firm, I think that was kind of the big strategy, but now you got to get down to that micro strategy, which is how important reviews are to travel tour operators. How do you clean that up?
I found out that we always knew that reviews were important because I look at reviews. But we found out that when that happens, they have either an algorithm or something where they can see that it's attached to a news story, like Maui Snorkeling's in the news. Okay. And then, you send the request to them, and they quickly realize that these aren't your customers. They're not rating Maui Snorkeling's service or our ability to show you a great, whales or a great snorkeling
They didn't go
spot.
On a trip, so they're not eligible for a review.
And I have a feeling most of them are on the mainland. The ones in the comment sections that were locals would say, "Hey, wait a second, that's at Ben Gunn. That's 12 miles away from Lahaina." So they kind of, I felt like defended me to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reviews, Google takes a pretty harsh stance on that, and they against the people that are giving fake reviews. So really, I think all of them were gone. Yelp, same thing. TripAdvisor, I believe, is the same. So it really, and truthfully, as far as I can tell, it has not affected our business.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, but certainly, the Lahaina tragedy has affected everyone on Maui because arrivals are down about 30%.
30%.
Last time I looked.
Wow.
And, I got back Friday, and it seemed, I think maybe it made up a little, but I still think they're down.
Wow. 25. Wow. So what would be your message to guys like me that have been, coming to Hawaii for a long time, and I like going everywhere, and for whatever reason, my mind has just been, don't go to Maui. What's your message to guys like me that have that just preconceived notion that it's a little crazy?
Well, I'm definitely not the spokesman for Maui, and I have a vested interest, but, the economy is very tough right now.
Yep.
Unemployment's way up, and people they have stepped back, as far as I can tell, that they've stepped back and they said, okay, maybe we swung too far. We really need people to come here. And it's the right kind of tourist, not to be snobby. And, I chafe a little bit at that because I don't only want rich people to enjoy Maui.
Right.
But the thinking there is, you can either have 50,000 people on the island, which might feel too much at any one time, or you can have 40 or 30 that are spending 50% more than the other ones were.
Totally.
So again, it's kind of a classist thing, and that I'm not super comfortable with that, but you got to find the balance, and I'm not the one who makes that decision. But
who is Visit Maui?
Yeah, Visit Maui. The governor has had a tough job, and there's been a little bit of mixed messaging, which he would probably admit, but he's trying his best to get people back.
Nice.
And all business owners are, we want to keep our people employed.
Yeah. Well, hey, you've convinced me. Because that's the weird thing about marketing, right? Is that, you get a little stereotype in your head, whether it's from social media or press or whatever. And my just Pavlovian response is, "Oh, don't go to Maui."
Yeah,
like that's what's
polite.
It's just sitting in the back of my head there of like, I'm gonna go to Hawaii. There's other islands. Why not? And now, from having a conversation with you, now I see that that's not the way to be thinking about it.
And what I try to do, I was there from Friday to Friday. Just got back, and I tried to just eat local places a little bit more. So I went to this. There's a place in Kaanapali called the Fish House, and I was
love the Fish House. Love the Fish House.
Bought a T-shirt.
Let's go. So there's little things we can do. We can support local. We can spend more, and we can, maybe normally we're not going to buy the souvenir, and we actually go and buy the souvenir. Be more mindful of how you.
And if you can find a handmade local souvenir, that's even better.
I love that.
But anyone is helping.
Yeah, very cool. Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you helping, in your own way, kind of give us hesitant tourists a shove in the right direction. So, all right, let's pivot a little bit to Arrival. So you and I didn't get a chance to meet at Arrival, but great show.
It was.
To my experience, I have been diving into the travel industry in the last 5 weeks because I brought on a new client, Lost In, which is a travel guide company. And I've always sold into the travel industry, mainly around, Hyatt hotels or hotels.com, or I've worked with Delta Airlines, I've worked with Southwest, never worked with operators, probably because you guys are fragmented. You're small businesses to some degrees, they're a scale down to like an individual person running a food tour up to, guys like you that have a lot of capital investments, hardware, stuff like that, to tour operators that operate in 20 cities around the country, around the globe, right? So there's a sliding scale too in the operator space. I loved the Arrival show. I really enjoyed, I think that my biggest takeaway was, you don't go on vacation to experience an airplane ride. You kind of go on a vacation to experience a hotel, but in my case, it's where I put my head at night. why I go to vacations is to experience the things that guys like you operate. I want to go for experiences, and I want to go for food, and I want to do things. And that's also what everybody's out there now doing, is they want to, get that digital passport book stamped with a social media video or social media picture. So I really enjoyed learning about the experiential side of the business. Loved hearing the statistic that travel post-pandemic is back by 1%, but the experiences side is up by 40%.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's a lot of being driven by, my generation of millennials that like experiences more than things is kind of our point of view. But be curious to, why'd you go to Arrival to start?
I work with a guy named Mario Noble, and he and I both, came into this business from different areas. He was in operations, great pedigree. He went to Ross Business School in Michigan, and really he used to run factories, and very smart guy. And you wouldn't think that would be so applicable, but it really has been for the ops side, which, I'm not good at in the first place. And but on top of that, we realized that we need to really delve into the marketing of it and know it ourselves, not just going to a meeting with somebody we're hiring who tells us things and we kind of get, but we kind of don't.
Not just trust agencies 100% that they know what they're talking about or they're doing what they're saying they're doing.
Yeah. And it's tough, I feel like I don't really fully understand something unless I'm doing it, or it's, I feel like it's I can see the results. I can see, they connect to me. So I'm on a learning curve. I'm currently taking a digital marketing class from Northwestern.
Sweet.
Online.
Okay. Nice.
He and I both are.
That's great.
I have
love
homework
it.
every week. Thursday morning.
It happens. It happens.
So, being on that learning curve, I thought, and it's in our backyard. So in San Diego, we gave it a try, and I was really impressed.
Pretty cool.
Great organization. And I was amazed at the diversity of tour operators. I mean, I went in just thinking, okay, there's going to be some boat tours. There's going to be, maybe museum tours or something, but there's so many food tours, and even in cities that I wouldn't think there would be food tours on.
There's one in Carlsbad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no I'm meeting with the lady that runs that. She just got back from a food tour conference shortly after Arrival. So
interesting.
Yeah, we might have to get our own little Carlsbad community going.
But and just talking to those guys, especially when you have a little unstructured time at the cocktail party. It's amazing the diversity,
the insights.
And I swear Nashville's 40% of the tours in this country. I knew that they had boomed, but every 2 out of every 5 people I met, it seems like they were
totally
something from Nashville.
Yeah, my old my CEO at my last agency moved to Nashville during COVID, and I feel like she was an innovator there. My wife is 5th generation San Diego, so she was not going anywhere, and for good reason, as we can tell. But there's some cities that are definitely having some post-COVID afterglow, and I think Nashville is definitely one of them. Yeah. Although, I think they like bachelorettes about as much as Maui folks like, people coming into the city after, a major issue. But.
No, I think you're right. I can imagine that would get old unless you run a bar or you sell pink cowboy hats.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
The pink cowboy hat industry is probably booming.
It's booming. It's booming for sure. So what would you say was your number one intention going into Arrival? Did you have, top 3 things you were learning?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. So you were there for the education piece.
And I should say secondarily also, I'd love to meet a tour operator that wants to get out. I think they tend to be expanders versus people that have one foot out the door.
Yep.
But they might know somebody.
Sure.
So,
And would you say that you are mostly interested in acquiring additional boat themed or sailing or some adjacency to what you guys already do? Is that really what you're looking for?
I guess that would be probably the highest.
Yeah, that'd be the highest priority.
But we would, it's gotta fit different things, geography. It's got to be, we're off island for a big chunk of the time. We do go back and forth a lot. We're always on the phone with them and everything, but it's tough to run a business from afar.
I bet.
And it's not something that I would say I'd say if you're trying to start a business or buy a business, buy it as close as possible.
Sure. Yeah. Geography matters.
Yeah, it really does. Mm-hmm. And, but we're not even it doesn't have to be within the tourist industry for us. We kind of like the businesses where there's a demographic tailwind. Mm-hmm. And certainly experiences, like you said, I think millennials and younger value experiences more than things.
I think it's going to keep growing, honestly. Yeah.
And I kind of get it. When I was in Maui last week, I went on the Maui chocolate tour. I highly recommend it.
Let's go.
There's two different ones. There's the factory, which is, I think it's a higher price point. It's a little, I think it's Willy Wonka-ish. I think it seemed like there was a little bit of that theme because something about a golden ticket.
Of course.
But I went on the one that it went into the farm.
Where's it out of?
It's Kaanapali-ish.
Kaanapali.
Yeah, Lahaina. It's actually right above Lahaina on the hill.
Got it.
And they have this, the hill's all brown, but they have this grove of trees, and they make great chocolate, and it's a really neat tour. You go up in the tree house, and they serve you, and really something I would suggest doing.
Yeah, well, it seems to reason that if you were able to acquire another Maui-based operation, you would have what was called the lower customer acquisition costs, more lifetime value, because as a marketer, you bring people into one side of the funnel. There's a good chance you can cross-pollinate those folks to the other business. Maybe you can offer some packages if it doesn't feel too kind of like, snorkeling, chocolate, what's the connection?
And I actually met her.
Cool.
The way it came across my radar was meeting her in that big open room where all the the Connect meetings. Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I don't know how we started talking, but I think I saw that she was in Maui, and that anytime somebody from Hawaii is. Oh, hey,
Well, I think San Diego Bay Adventures is probably for sale too. The guys that do the jet boats under the bay down here. I might know somebody. We'll have to talk off camera.
Okay. Yeah, well, that would certainly be the geography.
A little bit of adjacency for sure. Awesome. So you were there for learning and to make connections on the M&A side. What were some of your big takeaways from the learning side? Was there a favorite keynote or some insights?
Yeah, I think AI. Everybody's talking about AI, but it seems kind of to me, again, as a 56-year-old guy that's not in marketing, it seemed like, how is this really going to affect us? But I did see the applicability. The TripWorks did a demonstration. There are our online ticketer.
Yeah.
So
that was a good one.
Yeah.
Was that the one with the guy from the balloons?
The balloon guy,
yeah. They were. That was probably one of the most entertaining / informative presentations I've ever seen at a trade show.
Yeah, good.
They did a good job.
Yeah, that was quite good. And but he kind of demonstrated, and they had a little bit of a technical issue, but they did a good job of demonstrating the value of, like, he says that I believe he said that he rarely picks up the phone, or and correct me if I'm wrong, but did he say he gets like 95% direct?
Yeah.
And I've never, to me, it's always like everybody you talk to, it's, I do 65, 70 direct, and then 30 through the OTA, online travel agencies, which is, kind of where we are. Sometimes we get up in around 80, but we're in that ballpark, and it seems like there's some kind of rule to where maybe Viator knows that it's like war strategy rules, to where if they spend too much, they make us mad, but if they spend enough, they'll jump us and they'll get 30% of the take. So we're all kind of okay with that.
Yeah.
And I said 95%.
Yeah.
And
no,
I just can't imagine.
I spent some time with him at lunch, and he's probably one of the more savvy marketers that I've met. And I've been in the industry for 13 years. And I'm talking about savvy marketers across, knowing marketers and travel and tech and Fortune 5,000. He really knows his stuff.
Another thing, takeaway that he said he does is he goes into the unfulfilled carts and he calls them.
Smart.
And to me, I always thought, okay, are they going to say, that's creepy? How did you get my info? And then I'll say, well, you gave it to me.
Sure.
But I think your average person might not know that. But he says there's no pushback at all.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
You're helping them, and you don't do it as a sales call. You do it as a
customer service
can I
call.
Help you?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think you're right. I think I had another podcast on this morning with a gentleman that wrote a marketing book, and he in that book chronicled the infamous or quite famous rather marketing tactic of Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos. And Tony Hsieh had a book called Finding Happiness, and his customer service department really was the marketing. They went above and beyond to fulfill people's customer service wishes. And what that led to was word of mouth love and also social proof, right? So if you called up in, Tony's customer service people, not only would they help you, figure out whatever was wrong with your shoes, but they'd, they'd read your kid a bedtime story, or they'd, send you something in the mail that would shock and awe you, surprise and delight's probably a better word than shock and awe, but they use marketing really as their secret weapon and their word of mouth and what their brand was built on. And then if you think about AI, the promise of AI, I think, is kind of both, human-led customer service that has the data of every conversation every one of your reps have ever had with a customer, looking at your entire depth of FAQs and being able to hit a button and answer any question that's ever been conceived. Being able to, I think you saw the example that the hot air balloon guy gave of understanding the intricacies of flying in a weather balloon as a 95-year-old woman who recently had a hip replacement surgery. I mean, you can't expect your customer service agents to have that level of depth and sophistication, but if you can give them that level of intelligence and they can kind of have that kind of a dashboarding in front of them when customers are making calls, it makes it pretty exciting.
And I thought they were two different things. I thought, okay, you have AI and your telephone crew says, oh God, the robots are taking over. But it should be used kind of as a combination.
Totally.
So they should use it as a script, like you said. As they're talking to somebody, they can refer to it. And I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I like that. And I think the other component that I think is pretty interesting is the idea that you mentioned, like fulfilling unused carts and calling unused carts. I had a water filtration business that had products anywhere from $150 all the way up to $10,000, and we called carts too, because for a $10,000 sale, but you'd be surprised, like you'd give somebody a call and the question or piece of help that could have gotten them to the finish line was so close and so easy that you're not only leaving money on the table, but a bad customer experience is a bad customer experience, whether that person goes on your trip or not. So why not connect the dots and see if you can help that person, like you mentioned, and then also edge them to actually go on your experience. Because if all they did was have a bad experience with your brand, that's just as bad as them actually going on the trip and having a bad experience and talking about it afterwards. So I love that. All right. So for the final half of the show, or the final quarter of the show rather, let's dive into how you guys market when you're not having a boom or a bust season, when things are just normal, everyday travel season to Maui. So let's start with, how do you guys find what's your primary channel that you guys find customers on today?
Yeah, I would say, the cheap long game, the cheaper way to acquire customers would be SEO. And we're always trying to do that. We had poor SEO when we bought the company, and we saw that. You used to Google the name of our company and we were the 7th page.
Wow.
Now we're in the number 1,
much better,
below the paid ads. So, and that takes me to the second part, the paid ads. You can essentially jumped the line, for lack of a better term, by doing that. But it's expensive. It's it might not be equivalent with an OTA's commission, but it's not that much less. Even if you're good at the game. So, we spend money on Facebook ads, Instagram. I used to think, before I was in this and really so concerned about marketing, I used to think that social media would be, okay, you get 100,000 followers on your page, and then those will be your customers. But I quickly realized that those 100 people spend, 0.1% of their time in Maui. So they're not really your customers.
No.
So, or they might just love dolphins.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Some of them might just be voyeuristic, kind of seeing what you guys are up to, seeing what island life is like. Maybe they think the captain's cute.
Yeah. The ones that are already interested into it, it does show social proof that we're real. They'll see pictures of our other trips. A lot of content from our customers, which is nice and free. So, we like that a lot. But yeah, it's a mix between SEO and paid ads.
Got it. And then you mentioned you would say your average is 70-30 OTA direct.
Yeah, I think we actually bumped it up to 80-20 last month, but it does vary.
Got it.
But yeah, I would say 70-30 is pretty typical.
Have you heard of programmatic SEO?
Programmatic? No.
Yeah, you might check this out. I just learned about it from a friend of mine that runs a platform. He runs an OTA, but in the private land space. It's called Land Trust. And what Land Trust is it's basically Airbnb for sportsmen.
Oh, okay.
So instead of going and renting a house, you rent private land that you can then go fly fishing on. You can go fishing, shoot a duck. You can. I did RV stuff there last summer in Montana. You can even do what's called ranch experiences, where you go and milk a cow or something like that. But I just caught up with him the other day, and he showed me the receipts, on his back end on the Google Analytics, and they've cut ad spend completely out, and they're going like that. Wow. And basically what programmatic SEO does is it generates pages that will have keyword searches and rankings and spits the pages out in real time. So it's like basically what Nick will do is generate a page for like Montana, this type of species, this type of season. Like it takes all the variables within search and then make sure that you rank for multiple phrases and combinations. So I asked him, I said, hey, would this work for a B2B company, or does this work for direct to consumer if I'm selling Health Aid kombucha? And he said, yeah, quite sure. So don't know if it'll work for operators, but I would definitely take a peek at it. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask you on the ad spend side is you mentioned you've got a decent meta spend. What about your Google spend? Do you have a Google spend?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
What performs better, Google or Meta?
Meta's been performing better.
Wow, that is not usual.
Yeah,
usually Google is the number one performance channel.
Yeah, but it performs better up to a certain extent. You can't double your Meta ad spend and get double the results.
There's not. So there's a what's called law of diminishing returns.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Okay, so
up to a point, it's better as far as if you just look at percentages.
Okay, got it. So basically, what that makes me think about is on your Meta side, you are kind of tapping out what's called the demand side of it, right? So there's only a certain attributable world of people that are on Maui that want to go snorkeling within X amount of time.
Yeah.
So there's two factors. There's either an awareness issue where, when I come to Maui, I don't know that snorkeling is an option, or I don't know that snorkeling on your type of boat is an option. I'm just going to Bob's and getting a sack and going to the beach. So there's an awareness issue. So there's that's one thing that you can solve for. But yeah, fascinating on the Google side, because usually that's the number one performer. So
it is on an aggregate basis. It's just on a percentage basis. But the first, dollars spent, it performs better on Meta.
Got it. So what I think is really interesting, this whole OTA thing, and I thought you brought it up, I just kind of looked at it going, I got no fight. I got no dog in the fight necessarily. I'm a publisher. So I'm not an OTA. I'm not an operator. I don't have, I'm just a potential marketing partner. Right. And when I looked at that ecosystem of like, okay, there's 150 OTAs that are trying to sit between you and the customer, and they're dabbling between 20 to 30%. And you think that it's almost a manufactured percentage, because if they go too high, they're going to bite the hand that feeds them. But these guys have, trained SEO specialists, trained media buyers, relationships with Google and Meta because they buy in aggregate. So what do you think of this whole arrangement to begin with?
Yeah, well, that's my kooky theory. And it's just because of getting these little anecdotes.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody talks
about. And not necessarily the conspiracy theory that they're keeping it at 30 to 20%. But what do you think about the OTA model in general? Do you think it's something that should be a part of the industry even?
Yeah, it's a little tough. Again, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me.
Of course.
Because they send me a lot of business, but they do outspend me to get, my customers. And then, and take a chunk out. So that's a little frustrating, but they do bring, there's something you have to deal with. They're a little tougher on, if you're dealing with a Viator, there's an extra site in between you and the customer. So the customers arrive to our boat a little bit less informed, which is a little tough.
It's a problem because there's an education gap. They didn't do the research. They didn't sign the waiver, all the things that you're expecting when you go direct to consumer. And you don't have that communication window. You're not texting them the waiver ahead of time. You're not telling them if they're showing up to the wrong spot. There's somebody that's in the middle who's kind of managing that relationship. So there's a issue.
We have fixed a lot of the issues that we've had over the years on getting everything at the right times to the customers. There's a balance between having too little information and too much. You don't want to bombard them, but you want to give them the information they need. But, a lot of times today, I was on the boat, several times in the past week, and people generally most people are showing up and they've got everything signed. And that didn't used to, when I first took over, it was paper waivers. And, you met them at the dock box and said, you'd call out names. Okay, how many? And you'd circle and, it was an imperfect system, but we don't have a lot of those issues anymore.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm also just thinking of, the competition there. And, I guess if I'm to play devil's advocate, I do like certain platforms because then I don't have to go and fill out all my information and put my credit card in. What e-commerce engine? You said you were on Ticket.
TripWorks.
TripWorks. So TripWorks is your direct. So if
our site links to them.
Okay, got it. So if I wanted to go book direct, I am essentially booking through TripWorks.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
And Fair Harbor is the 800-pound gorilla of the industry. TripWorks is a relatively new company, but they've been great.
They seem to be disruptive for sure. They're innovating.
We might be their oldest customer.
Got it. Okay. And then, because that would be the only value for me is like, I don't want to go off platform if I already have my credit card stored somewhere and I trust the brand and I trust that they'll give me a refund if I get screwed or I show up and there's no one there.
I've hiked the Camino in Spain.
Right.
And
we talked about that.
I go through booking to do that. And I know exactly what you're talking about because when I'm on the trail and I decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I know I'm going a little slower or faster, so I'm going to cancel that one. and rebook.
Yep, and they're not going to ping you. They're not going to.
It's a much easier system. Yeah. So I guess
it's like reward miles or whatever on an airline or something, right? Like you get locked into certain ecosystems because there's some flexibility to it. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we won't throw OTAs under the bus completely. They do provide some level of marketing, and that's the other area that I would say, like, has an OTA ever come to you and said, other than just buying up the search demand that's being, last click essentially, do they provide any other kind of cooperative marketing? Like, do they ever come to you and say, hey, we want to send some people out to do a video, or we want to do some banner ads with you, or we want to do something creative other than just buying last click with Google?
Yeah, no, we provide the pictures.
Well, for you OTAs out there wondering what kind of value you can provide to your end supply side partners, maybe that's an area to think about. Yeah, because that's another area, like you think about Visit Maui as a cooperative, right? Like, do they give you matching marketing dollars occasionally, right, for certain programs? So yeah. Let's talk about that. So DMAs, fan, not a fan? How does Visit Maui treat you guys, and how do you collaborate with them?
I have to plead a little ignorance on this. I don't directly talk to them.
Mario Interesting. Does. Okay.
So you're gonna have to call him into
no problem. Yeah. Well, we'll have to do a follow up. There.
I could fake it, but
that's okay. I appreciate the candidness. All right, let's talk a little bit about social. Because I think that's important. You mentioned that Meta is a top performer for you guys. So when you approach social media, how much are you thinking about, your crew, essentially the guys that are out on the boats? They got a job to do, but more and more they're being asked to pull out their iPhone and create content at the same time, right? Some companies can have a dedicated person that's either there for the customers to get video and content for them, or as somebody that's getting also content for the operator. So they've got stuff. So that's what we call like a, in-house content person. You've got your customers are all creating content out there too. And it's free. And then the only problem is, how do you aggregate it? How do you find it? How do you get it? How do you get the rights? How do you ingest it? And then you've also got guys like me that are, social video companies that, I noticed that you guys also had a write-up in Sunset Magazine too. So you've obviously worked with publishers and you know how that works. And then the final is the infamous influencer creator, the people who want a free trip and they want to barter, they want to get paid to come check out your thing. So what's the breakdown for you guys?
Well, I can start with the last one. As far as influencers, I also thought that would probably be a big driver of business, but those influencers might be in Maui, but the people that are watching them, the content as it goes, they're not keeping notes and writing.
It's like shooting a pigeon with an elephant gun, right?
So, but and to make the point, we've actually had Kendall Jenner.
Wow.
So
let's go.
And I think I can attribute 0 sales.
Interesting. Yeah. Did she actually post or tag you
guys?
She
did post. She had, I think one. I don't know if
did she tag you?
I'm not sure if she tagged us. She did have one picture where she was in front of this.
Did you guys give her the boat for free?
No, we charged them. But we gave them a little bit more.
You gave them a little VIP experience.
We thought that it would really, pay off big. And, it was a coup to get her, because, I don't want to diminish that, but it was a test, and I don't think it really provided. And the other one is we had Barack and Michelle Obama.
Oh my goodness.
So on President's Day.
No way.
And they only won. Daily Mail covered it. And they actually
did they send Daily Mail, or did you guys use your PR firm?
It was we didn't do any of that.
All
in fact,
organic.
We were not really allowed to.
Sure,
we knew about it months before, and we had to sign NDAs, and it was very hush hush. but their picture they used was one of those, taken from 3 miles away kind of.
Wow. Oh, like a paparazzi shot.
And they said the girls that were on the boat, it wasn't the girls.
Oh, interesting.
So
I know there's paparazzi on Maui for sure, because that was when I first got into the influencer marketing world. This is before Facebook and before YouTube. So we used to do influencer marketing in the websites, in the blogosphere, like TMZ and Us Weekly or Radar Online. So, you'd be surprised, but a lot of those things that look like news are sometimes marketing. So,
we did have a really good one. So there was a lady that I think she might live on Oahu. It's freely inspired.
Okay.
And she has a YouTube channel, and she went on, and she came on the perfect day. Whale literally came up next to our boat, and it wasn't, it's not like she came 12 times and we just used that footage.
Sure.
It was the day she was on. It was a perfect shot.
That's pretty cool.
So a baby whale and the mom came up.
Oh my goodness.
So it was her husband, and her little toddler. And, it was a really great 6-minute video. And she allowed us to put it on the MauiSnorkeling.com, and it's got thousands of views now.
Did she tag you guys?
And her others don't really. So I think we drive a lot of hers, but it did. When people are checking us out and they click that, they can see, this is a legitimately incredible adventure.
So for that, would you say the content was the better result? Was the fact that you got that amazing day and she happened to highlight it and have a POV on it? But
so
really
part of it was luck. She's good at what she does, but part of it was luck of having the whales in the right place.
Wow. So. Well, I think you're also talking about something that's really important, which is influencer versus celebrity, right?
Yeah.
Or a creator versus influencer. There's such a dichotomy now of, the reason that maybe the Obamas didn't really drive any traffic, or even somebody like the Jenner sisters, is that at the end of the day, their relationship with their fans are one to many. And an influencer is 1-to-1. So an influencer comments on every comment, goes into the DMs, not always to the scale of really being able to always answer every single thing, but there's a different relationship. That's why Taylor Swift's successful, is because she actually acts like an influencer. And she's a celebrity. But she's figured out how to scale that. But to some degree, I think, you guys maybe saw some of that power, but also, like you said, is right time, right moment, and right piece of content as well. So you talked a little bit about the influencer piece. So what's your policy then? Charge these guys, or, case by case basis, or what's the feeling?
It's case by case. So I hate to say this, but if they're likable and humble, and they say, hey, we're coming on.
That's actually a good policy, I think.
Yeah. And I'll say, okay, you know what, we're not full. I'll give you, 25% off, or 50 or something. Some of them are kind of demanding, like, I want this, and this. And I'm like, we haven't really seen a lot of business being driven our way. So it's not really useful we just kind of balance with when they provide content. That's really great. We had some kid from San Diego that
no way
my kid knows that.
Okay.
That
was it Tanner?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Is he a scooter kid?
Yeah.
Tanner Fox.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Tanner's great.
He came on, but I think it seems like he came on the old boat, which didn't show really well. But and he was fine. It was. He was good to deal with and everything. It wasn't, how I was saying, some of them aren't humble, but he was good. Egos. But I don't think the people watching the videos aren't.
Yeah, they're there to see scooters. Although there's quite a lot of moms that probably watch those videos with the kids too. Yeah. And something that you probably have to think about is not necessarily the attribution that you can tie directly to an influencer coming on, but how many people see it, and then when they go, they're like, I think we should snorkel while we're here. And they have no idea why they're even thinking about snorkeling. And who should we snorkel with? Well, I think I remember Maui Snorkeling. That comes to mind, right?
Trying to figure out
Yeah.
how to, there's no pixel on the site that can track those people.
Right.
And we have the drop down, but when I do the drop down, a lot of times I just click.
Same. You just whatever. Yeah, exactly.
And now since it means something to me, I might take a little more time thinking, okay, there's a small business owner behind this.
Trying to understand their funnel. Yeah.
But I don't think most people take a lot of time.
No, I don't think so. All right. Well, we covered off on the influencer piece. And then what about how do you do owned and operated content? So is it the crew, or do you have a person out there shooting for the people, shooting for you guys?
Well, it's that was part of the reason I was in Maui.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
We're going to start in 2 weeks.
Nice.
So they're going to be on the vessel with us. Both underwater and dry.
That's cool.
So we have a revenue sharing agreement, and they say they're going to come if we have 10 people or if we have 60.
Nice.
And it all evens out. So the other thing is they're saying that they'll provide us great pictures because they're photographers.
Yeah, so that's essentially a trade out too. Yeah. So you're giving them access to the customers to essentially help sell them the videos and photos, but then you're also getting access to a percentage of those for your own marketing as well. That's awesome.
So they've got all the tools and the knowledge, and they're professionals. So the user, like I said, the customer content is free, but they're if they used mine, it would be a shaky phone and it would be really poor quality. But these guys know what they're doing. So
I love it.
We're excited.
And how do you source the customers' photos that they take on their own devices? If they grab a GoPro, or if they put their phone in a waterproof bag or something?
Yeah, but I'm sorry, how do we?
Yeah, how do you get it? Like, do you just look for stuff where they tag you? Or, what is the incentive for them to participate with you in co-creation?
We do show them, the site, and have them encouraged to tag us on the way back into the harbor.
That's awesome.
So they will send it to us, but we don't automatically post it.
Right.
We have to see, is it worth it? Is there anything?
Is there an incentive? Do they get a percentage off next time?
I don't think so, but I can't guarantee that. I don't think so, though.
Might be something.
You can't pay for reviews. You can't pay for. I don't know if you
can't pay for reviews, but you can certainly pay for content.
Yeah, I guess you really could. Okay. Yeah. So maybe in the future we'll have a discount on clothing or something.
Could be cool. Yeah. I like it. All right. Well, Mark, you've been a good sport. We've talked a lot about Maui. We've talked about the industry. We've talked about your boat and your tour. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Where would you like to point people if they want to book a tour next time they're on the beautiful island of Maui? And where can people find you personally if they want to talk about partnering and connect with you?
Okay. MauiSnorkeling.com. And personally, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't think there's too many Mark Elmores. I'm the one that kind of sun in the background, and dark shirt, glasses on a beach. So,
Let's go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate you hopping on and listening to 2 podcasts in one day. So if you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Mark today, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you happen to be watching the show. And we like reviews too at the Ad Podcast. So if you like the show and you give us a review, that's how we find a audience more organically. And last but not least, if you know somebody out there in the marketing world around travel, or you know someone who wants to get out of the rat race and do something fun where you're out in the sun and hanging on a boat and diving with dolphins all day, or most importantly, if you just think there's someone that would enjoy the conversation that I had with Mark today, do not forget to share the show. And with that, we will see you again shortly. Thanks so much for tuning into the Ad Podcast.